All right, welcome everyone to KM6LYW Radio for another exciting adventure in ham radio. I know we're keeping it really on the packet theme lately. I don't know why I have fascination with packet radio, but it occurred to me that in my other videos where we talked about building a packet radio terminal node controller, like the one that you see on your screen, out of a Raspberry Pi, we never talked about real traditional packet radio. I mean, I'm talking like bulletin board systems. I'm talking about hardcore AX.25 networking where you can route from one radio to another and actually have a chat over keyboard with a friend in a distant state. You can do all of that. In fact, that's how packet radio kind of originated. The modern packet radio has been more things like APRS, sending beacons and texting, maybe WinLink over VHF and HF, and those are arguably popular. But I don't think regular old-fashioned packet radio, what we call node radio, maybe gets enough love. It's there, these networks are actually global. You can get all over the world. Well, I don't know about all over the world, all over the country, certainly all over the state using AX.25 packet radio. I'm going to show you some cool stuff. In fact, there might even be a video game out there. So you're going to want to watch this one to see why you may or maybe you don't want to use packet radio. But you'll notice on the DigiPi here that there's a new, the DigiPi is the little device over on the right, the Raspberry Pi connected to the radio. It has a new menu item in the web interface it's running, and one of them is called Linux Node AX.25. So, along with all of these other services that you can see in my other videos, today we're going to talk about this new feature called Linux Node, and this is built into most Linux distributions. Ubuntu, Debian, Raspbian. That's what's running here on this Raspberry Pi. So a lot of this software you can just apt-get install and may edit a few config files and have your own AX.25 node on the AX.25 network in your area. And then there's digipeaters for that here and there. You really need to research your area, but I'm going to demonstrate how this works. And I think we're just going to have a little bit of fun today with packet radio. So go ahead and join me, KM6LYW radio, and we're going to fire up the packet node here and see how far we can get, see what we can do, see what services are out there. I have a node here and it's on frequency 145730 and it's now in node mode. You'll notice that the system status has Linux node AX.25 is active. All right, so what does that mean to you guys? Well, there's a variety of ways you can connect to these nodes. Once you get AX.25 configured on your system, and that's no easy feat. Don't expect that to be super easy. Um, Let me get these windows lined up here and get that stuff out of your way. So there's a couple of different ways you can do this. I'm going to clear the screen because I was experimenting. There's AX call, and you can specify your AX.25 device, and mine is radio, and you can say KM6LYW-4 via a repeater, MTV NOD, and is a high level repeater on the other side of California. I can usually get into this pretty good. So what we're doing here with the AX call command is we're saying establish a connection using raw mode here. I don't want to like a bunch of fancy graphics. And I want to use my radio port that I defined for AX.25. And I'm going to connect to a KM6LYW-4, which is basically myself. So I'm doing a big loop. And I'm going to do that via MTV NOD, which is the Mount Vaca node repeater on the other side of California. So my radio is going to be a client and a server, if you can imagine that. And I'm going to route back to myself via MTV NOD. So you kind of get a good simulation of what it's going to look and maybe more importantly sound like. I've got some of the volumes up over there. Hopefully it's not too annoying. So I'm just going to go ahead and issue this AX call command, and we're going to connect to my node via Mount Vaca. So it's all the way there and back again. And you can kind of see it happen in there. So it's connecting me as user KM6LYW because that's the name of my AX.25 interface. And I want to know my password because that's a privileged operator. So you're going to learn the secret password right there, which of course will change probably, well, unlikely by the time this video goes on. So you'll notice there's been a lot of noise and fuss in the background. You see a lot of packets going back and forth. Over here in the green window, we have the direwolf log that's probably really hard to read. So direwolf is managing all of this, the AX.25 modem end of it. So AX.25 is really just a transport layer in the OSI network model, and direwolf, I guess you could say, is a physical layer. It's actually making the noises and keying up the radio devices. And then the little amber thing down here is it's called AX listen, AX listen minus C minus P, and it'll actually show you all the traffic going through our AX.25 interface. But that's all the nuts and bolts. You guys aren't interested in that. So over here, we actually connected to ourselves through the Mount Vaca Digipeater, and you see there's a menu of useful commands. So we can see users, we can talk to a user, we can we can type email, and use WinLink from the command line. I bet you a lot of you didn't know you could do WinLink from the command line. You can do that here. We can play Zork. You guys remember the Infocom adventure Zork? There was another thing called Colossal Caves, but I installed Zork on this node. If you type Hitch, you're going to play Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, another brilliant Infocom game. Or you can type nodes, which will show you nearby nodes that this station has heard and that you can probably connect to through this node. So, maybe I've heard a node that's 100 miles away, which is 200 miles away from you. You can actually get to that node through me. That's just the nature of AX.25, and of course you can do the CONN here. So let's see, what do we want to do? So I just want to see who's here. Maybe there's somebody cool. I'm just going to type users, and you can hear the packets going back and forth. And it looks like there's somebody here called KM6LYW on port radio, and he's been idle very briefly. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to telnet. Ignore the window over there. On the node port, so you can actually telnet into these nodes too. And so now I am logged in also over via telnet. Now if I type users, you'll see two people logged in. And I am KM6LYW is the guy coming in over port radio, and the guy over telnet is KM6LYW lowercase. Actually, no, I'm going to log in as a different user just so there's different users. I'll log in as KM6LYW dash, I don't know, 15. Now if we type users, what I should do is have my wife here so I could use her call sign. We see some distinct users. But the reason I wanted to have two users here is just to show you what a message looks like. So here's two users on this node, and KM6LIW on port radio is going to talk to KM6LIW-15, say, hey, this is a message from me to me, right? Got it? A lot of modem fussing, and we wait for it. Actually, what I should have done is typed it over here. Let me make this bigger. I'll make this big. So you can see this is the message that came to me. So I'm going to send a message back over this telnet prompt. So talk KM6LIW, that's the radio version of me on the radio port. Hey, this is me replying to me. I can send that. And you see I get the message in my other window here. Anyways, that was kind of, I really am talking to myself here. That's a little weird. So I'm not going to do that. So to get let's go up here and see what our list of commands were. So we looked at users, we looked at talk, email. I'm not going to do WinLink email. You guys can look that one up. But you know what I think a lot of people are here to look at, and I just hit the enter key, is I'm going to type Zork, Z-O-R-K. All right. Now we're talking about some business here. Now this is getting interesting. Modems are going wild, absolutely wild. You can see the call signs going back and forth here. And also, if you're an Infocom game fan, you're going to start to recognize that this is Zork, one, the great underground empire. We might have lost a packet or two there. It'll come through. AX.25 is a connected protocol with acknowledgments. So if it looks like it's hung, and yeah, it's hung, and we get that. But if a resend is necessary, the protocol stack will do that. And see, you can see here that it recovered. In fact, if you're looking really closely at the green window over here and the amber window, you can see the packets going back and forth. So let's see, we are west of house. You're standing in an open field west of a White House with a boarded front door. Small mailbox here. Well, what are we going to do? Open mailbox. Let's do that, see what happens. There's going to be no surprise here. It's going to be a lot of modem screeching. And remember, I'm going through a digipeater all the way across California, and then it's repeating myself back to myself. So it says opening the small mailbox reveals a leaflet. So anyways, we can read the leaflet, but what I can do is like, maybe go south. Let's see what's going on. It's been a while since I played this. So west of the White House. So if I go east, maybe I can get behind the White House. Let's see here. It's a fun game if you can stand the screeching noises. You're behind the house. A path leads to the forest to the east. In the other corner of the house, there's a small window with a slightly ajar. So obviously, open window. Obviously. So it's a little slower than you might be used to. I mean, even a DOS computer was a lot faster than this back in the day, or even an old Fortran computer was faster than this. And this is about 1200 baud. There aren't a lot of 9600 baud networks, and there's some new networks coming out called NPD, so new packet NPR, new packet radio. Um, let's see if we can type enter house. See if that's a good command. It's going nuts. This is going to be a good one. There's obviously a paragraph coming through. You can just tell by the insane amount of noise. Hopefully you guys can hear that. Trust me, it's really loud in here. All right, so now we've got a bottle, quantity of water. Anyways, you guys have probably played this a little bit. This is a multi-user, it's a, multi-threaded, so to speak. So a lot of people can log in and check this out. So I'm just going to say save. And we're going to do KM6LYW for enter my call sign. That'll be my save file. And we saved it. We're going to overwrite existing file. Yeah. I haven't gotten very far in this game. So anyways, we've used the AX call command. Oops, it failed. It must have been... I've been messing with the permissions on this to make sure people can't stomp each other. So let's see. I'm going to say quit, I think is the command for Zork. And yeah, we want to leave the game. Okay, score is 10 out of 350 points in 5 moves. We have the rank of beginner. And then it kicks us back out to our Linux node. Now we can always type the question mark command to get a full list of commands. The menu we saw at the top was just the commands I thought were interesting. There's all kinds of weird stuff you can do. You can actually telnet to other hosts on the internet. So it's kind of a link between the radio network and the internet if you want to telnet somewhere. You could telnet to a website if you wanted to. If you can read HTML, you could actually read it. So telnet to a website on port 80, it would actually show you that website. We can type nodes to see a list of things that are near that we have heard. This hasn't been on for very long, so it might not have a list of nodes. Yeah, the only one it's showing is KM6LIW-4. What we can also do is connect to other things. So I'm just going to say bye and to get off the radio. And I'm going to telnet into the node for convenience. And I'll be KM6LAW, log in, and I can do stuff like connect to other nodes. So the digipeater that I've been going through is called MTV NOD, and I can say connect via radio device MTV NOD, and now my node's going to connect to that node. And it says connected to MTV NOD, and that node is now giving me a menu. So I'm actually logged into it. So this is going to be a lot faster because there's no big round trip like there was before using it as a repeater. We can type question mark. Actually, we need to type help, not question mark. And it'll show us what these commands mean. So it's this is a good way to figure out what nodes are in your area. So the one thing I like to do is list all the nodes that the repeaters heard recently, because we know we can reach those through the repeater because the repeater has heard them. So I'm going to do a node long listing. I'm going to see how many nodes this repeater has heard lately. Oh yeah, lots. And you can see who they connected through. You see KBERR is another digipeater on this frequency. So now you just learned another digipeater. That's pretty cool. There's Solano County node, K6SOL. So anyways, these are the nodes that this guy has heard at some point. I'm going to go ahead and say bye to the node over on back on the other side of California. And it should kick me back to my own node that I'm telnetted into. Sure enough, it has. Have to question mark command, and I think that's it. So basically, what have we done here today? I mean, this has been a lot of noise, a lot of screeching, a lot of retro 1980s BBS stuff. So we used our node connected to ourselves just to kind of see how our node would work over the radio. And then we telnetted into it, and we used our node to connect to a further node. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's bulletin board systems that run on a lot of these, where you can actually leave messages for people. Yeah, I'm not on a frequency that has one right now. I'd have to put my headset down and switch frequencies, but that stuff is out there. So this is just a really brief introduction to Node, AX.25 Node, and you can really hop from server to server, talk to people online. You can chat. There's different applications. I wanted to share the fact that you could, actually implement something like Zork or Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or something. You can basically, if you can run a Linux command and it's done via the command line, you can do it here and you can set it up on your node. I'm just going to say bye, go back to my system, and most of the magic for AX.25 setup is in etc AX25. I mean, surprise, right? So these are the configuration files for AX.25 itself, the configuration files for the node, like bulletin board system, more or less. So I'm going to look at the AX25D. A lot of these weren't obvious. That's why I'm going into these. Do not put blank lines in this file. That killed about an hour here. You'll notice if someone connects to KM6LYW-4 via the radio device, it will run a command called AX.25 node. And the node is that BBS interface with the menu and the help command and all that. So it's really that simple. So this is the Linux kernel, or specifically the AX.25 daemon. It's like XINetD if you're familiar with the Linux equivalent. Will work that way. Also, there's a NetROM down here. NetROM is like a layered protocol on top of this. We won't go into that. In fact, if you connect to my call sign -5, it'll just automatically run Zork, so you can skip the menu if you want. The other cool file that you want to be aware of is node.conf. And this is, timeout values, the node ID, you can put that in there. The actual commands, like, how did Zork run? Um, External command, this is where you define those, is in node.conf, and this is where I defined how to run Zork. I did have to get the Zork source code and modify it a little bit to get rid of all the ANSI key sequences and control characters and modify it so you could save it and things like that. You notice it said enter your call sign. It didn't say enter save file. So Hitchhiker's Guide was very much the same thing. So this is node.conf. This is how you add those external commands to your bulletin board system once you have it up and running. And I think that was really the highlights. Setting up AX.25 is a completely different topic altogether. There's lots of stuff on the internet on how to do that. I also want to give the guy credit who actually thought of running Zork on one of these things. He has a really good. In fact, let's just search for it. I want to give that guy credit. It was so fantastic. Packet radio play Zork AX.25. He's probably going to be the first hit here. Yeah, here it is. So richardosgood.com. Check out his stuff. I used a lot of this for not only just playing Zork on the radio. I can probably zoom this in a little bit, but also to configure AX.25 and to configure out node.conf. He just goes into a lot of cool, it's really easy to understand. I learned all of this stuff the hard way, but do go and check this out. It's basically everything you need to do to get a node up and running on your AX.25 radio network. And then just for fun, as if that wasn't enough, he's got it so you can, in fact, set up Zork. Which is actually the Infocom released the source code for this, so it's freely available now. Okay, so time is running out here. I hope you enjoyed using Linux Node. Set up your node. If you're in California, let me know what your node name is. I'll check it out. There's a variety of frequencies out there. There's some popular ones are 145.730. Another one would be, I think, 144. I'm gonna get this wrong. Maybe it's 144.370. I know there's some activity out there, some network stuff going on there. So check out, ask your local club, what's some node frequencies. And honestly, if you just put your node on line on that frequency, it will listen. And you log into your node and type nodes, and you can see who's out there, and you connect to them, see what they've got going. Okay, I'm wrapping it up. This is KM6LYW Radio 73, and I'm clear.